the night started innocently enough. A group of us, including myself, my best friend Tom, Sarah, and Matt, were driving back from a late-night movie. The rain poured heavily, obscuring our view as we navigated through the desolate roads. Tom, our designated driver, decided to take a shortcut through a seldom-used back road to avoid the traffic. The road was narrow and winding, flanked by dense woods that seemed to close in around us. The rain drummed on the roof of the car, and the windshield wipers struggled to keep up. As we drove deeper into the darkness, an unsettling silence enveloped us. The only sounds were the soft hum of the engine and the rain's relentless drumming on the car's roof and windows. We exchanged nervous glances, and an unspoken sense of unease settled over us. After what felt like an eternity, we spotted the faint glow of a street lamp in the distance. Relieved, we approached the parking lot, hoping to find some respite from the unsettling road. The parking lot was desolate, and the lone street lamp cast a feeble light, barely illuminating the surroundings. We parked near a small, run-down building that looked like it hadn't been used in years. "I really need to use the restroom," Sarah said, breaking the silence. "Anyone else?" Reluctantly, we all decided to join her, preferring the discomfort of an abandoned building over relieving ourselves in the pouring rain. The building was eerie, cobwebs covered every corner, and the wooden floorboards creaked beneath our feet. The dim light from our phones barely illuminated our path as we explored the place. As we reached the restroom, an ominous feeling swept over us. The air was thick with an indescribable heaviness, and a strange odor lingered in the air, a mix of dampness and something else we couldn't quite place. Sarah rushed into one of the stalls while the rest of us waited outside. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the restroom, startling all of us. It sounded like something heavy had fallen, but Sarah was still in the stall, and we couldn't see what caused the commotion. "Sarah, are you okay?" Matt called out, concern in his voice. Silence. "Sar?" Before Matt could finish his sentence, the restroom door slammed shut, cutting him off mid-word. We exchanged terrified glances, our hearts pounding in our chests. "Guys, this isn't funny," Sarah's voice came from inside the restroom, shaky and filled with panic. We rushed to the door and tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if something was holding it shut from the inside. Fear gnawed at us as we frantically tried to free Sarah from whatever had locked her in. We banged on the door, yelling her name, but the only response we got was the sound of shuffling inside. Then, suddenly, the noises stopped, and the door swung open with a force that knocked us back. Sarah stumbled out, her face pale and her eyes wide with terror. "I saw something," she stammered, struggling to find the words. There was a figure, dark and shadowy. It was standing right behind me in the mirror. Her words sent shivers down our spines, and without wasting another moment, we ran out of the restroom, not looking back. As we reached the car, the rain began to subside, and the clouds parted, revealing a full moon that cast an eerie glow on the parking lot. We piled into the car, hearts still racing from the harrowing experience. Tom started the engine, and we drove away, leaving the abandoned building and its chilling secrets behind us. The rain-slicked road seemed less ominous now, and we felt a collective sigh of relief as we headed back to the main road. None of us could explain what had happened in that restroom, and we didn't dare to speak of it again. It was as if the night had taught us that some things were better left unexplained, that there were mysteries in the world beyond our comprehension. From that night on, we avoided the back road and the deserted parking lot. The encounter had left an indelible mark on all of us, a reminder that darkness could lurk in the most unexpected places. So, dear Redditors, if you find yourself in a remote parking lot on a dark and stormy night, be cautious and stay alert. You never know what shadowy figures might be lurking in the darkness, ready to send a chill down your spine and leave you questioning the inexplicable. Stay safe out there. Let's hop onto story number 2, but before I begin reading, make sure that you have subscribed to Mr. Scare for regular horror podcasts. Hey, Reddit. I'm Alex, and I've got a bone-chilling story to share with you all. It happened a few years back when I was working a late shift at the local supermarket. This eerie encounter took place in the parking lot, and I still get goosebumps just thinking about it. It was a typical Friday night, and I was wrapping up my shift around midnight. The store was almost empty, and the flickering fluorescent lights added to the unsettling atmosphere. As I walked out to the parking lot, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching me. I brushed off the unease, attributing it to the late hour and the fact that I was alone. I approached my car, but as I unlocked the door, I heard a strange noise coming from behind me. It was like a faint whisper, carried by the wind. I turned around, expecting to see another employee, but the parking lot was empty. My heart raced as I dismissed the sound as my imagination. I got into my car and started the engine, but it sputtered and died. Annoyed, I tried again, but the same thing happened. I cursed under my breath, thinking my car was acting up. I glanced around, hoping someone would come out to help, but there was no one in sight. I decided to give it one last shot before calling for a tow truck. As I turned the key, the engine roared to life. Relieved, I let out a sigh and prepared to drive away. But just as I put the car in reverse, I saw a figure in my rearview mirror, a person dressed in a tattered, hooded cloak. My heart leaped into my throat, and I turned around, but the figure was gone. There was no one there. My mind was racing, and I tried to convince myself that it was just a trick of the light or a reflection. But as I tried to leave, the engine died once again. Panic set in, and I tried to start the car over and over, but it wouldn't budge. That's when I heard the whispering again, and this time, I was certain it wasn't my imagination. The voice was faint, but I could make out words now. It sounded like a chant, something dark and foreboding. Fear coursed through me, and I felt a strange sense of dread, as if something malevolent was surrounding me. I glanced around, my eyes scanning the dark corners of the parking lot. And then I saw it, a figure standing near the edge of the lot, partially hidden by the shadows. It was the same hooded person I had seen in my rearview mirror. The figure started to move closer, gliding silently across the pavement. My heart pounded in my chest as I fumbled for my phone, desperate to call for help. But to my horror, my phone had no signal. There was no way to call for assistance. I was trapped, alone in the parking lot with this eerie, hooded figure closing in on me. I felt like I was in a nightmare, and there was no waking up. I tried to start the car again, but it was no use. It seemed like the figure was draining the energy from my car. The chanting grew louder, and the figure was almost upon me now. In a last desperate attempt, I got out of the car and ran towards the supermarket, hoping to find someone, anyone, who could help me. As I reached the entrance, I looked back, and the figure was gone. There was no sign of anyone in the parking lot. I tried to catch my breath, my mind still reeling from the terrifying encounter. I eventually got my car towed and fixed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something otherworldly had happened that night. The parking lot, once a mundane place, had turned into a haunting ground for an unexplainable entity. To this day, I'm haunted by that chilling encounter. I still work at the same supermarket, but I avoid the parking lot after dark. I've shared this story with my coworkers, but no one believes me. They think it's just an urban legend. But I know what I saw and heard that night. It wasn't just my imagination. There's something lurking in that parking lot, and it's something I hope to never encounter again. So, if you ever find yourself alone in a deserted parking lot at night, beware, the shadows might hold secrets you'd rather not uncover. Stay safe out there, Reddit. Hey, Reddit. I'm Sam, and I want to share a creepy and thrilling encounter I had at a parking lot a few years ago. It still gives me goosebumps whenever I recall that chilling night. It was a crisp autumn evening, and I had just finished a late shift at work. I was eager to get home and relax, so I hurried to my car in the dimly lit parking lot. The lot was nearly empty, with just a few scattered cars, and the silence was eerie. As I approached my car, I noticed a figure standing in the shadows. My heart skipped a beat, but I quickly dismissed it, assuming it was just another employee or someone waiting for a ride. However, as I got closer, I realized something was off. The person seemed to be watching me intently. A shiver ran down my spine, but I tried to brush off the uneasy feeling and focused on unlocking my car. Just as I was about to get in, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, and there was no one there. "Hello? Is anyone there?" I called out, my voice echoing in the empty lot. No response. I scanned the surroundings, but there was no sign of anyone. I chalked it up to my imagination playing tricks on me and quickly got into my car, locking the doors. As I started the engine, I caught a glimpse of the figure again in my rearview mirror. My heart raced, and I decided to leave the parking lot immediately. I looked around cautiously, but the figure had vanished. With a sense of relief, I pulled out of the parking lot and onto the main road. But as I drove, a feeling of being followed crept over me. I glanced in my rearview mirror, and to my horror, I saw the same figure standing on the side of the road, watching me as I drove away. My heart pounded in my chest, and I stepped on the gas, trying to put distance between us. But no matter how fast I drove, the figure seemed to keep pace, always lingering in the shadows just out of reach. Panic set in, and I dialed 911, frantically explaining the situation to the dispatcher. They assured me that a patrol car would be sent to check on the area. I kept driving, trying to stay on well-lit roads and populated areas. As I rounded a corner, I saw the headlights of a patrol car approaching. Relief washed over me as I pulled over to talk to the officer. But when I looked in my rearview mirror, the figure was nowhere to be seen. I explained the situation to the officer, who assured me that they would investigate the area. They advised me to head home and stay vigilant. I thanked them and drove off, my nerves on edge. For the next few weeks, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I constantly glanced over my shoulder, expecting to see the figure lurking in the shadows. Sleep became elusive, and I was haunted by the chilling encounter in the parking lot. One night, as I returned home from work, I saw a news report about a series of strange incidents in the area. An unknown person had been spotted lurking near parking lots and residential areas, leaving residents feeling unnerved and fearful. As I watched the news, a cold realization washed over me. The figure I had encountered was part of a pattern, a silent stalker that had been preying on people in the area. I contacted the police and shared my experience, hoping it would help in their investigation. But to this day, the identity of the silent stalker remains a mystery. This chilling encounter at the parking lot taught me to always trust my instincts and to be aware of my surroundings. The memory of that figure watching me from the shadows still lingers, a reminder that danger can sometimes hide in the most unexpected places. So, if you ever find yourself in an empty parking lot, be cautious. There might be someone silently watching your every move. Hey, Reddit. I'm Jake, and I want to share a creepy and thrilling experience I had at a parking lot a few years back. It was a night I'll never forget, and it still sends shivers down my spine whenever I think about it. It was a chilly winter night, and I had just finished a late-night movie with my friends. As usual, I was the designated driver, and I dropped them off one by one until I was the last one left in the empty parking lot. I parked my car in a dimly lit corner of the lot, feeling a bit on edge as I was all alone now. The lot was surrounded by dense woods, and the shadows cast by the trees seemed to play tricks on my mind. I tried to shake off the feeling and told myself it was just my imagination running wild. I pulled out my phone to check the time. It was almost 1 a.m. I decided to text my girlfriend and let her know I was on my way home. As I was typing the message, I noticed a figure in my rearview mirror. My heart skipped a beat, and I turned around quickly, but there was no one there. I chalked it up to my tiredness and the play of shadows. Nevertheless, I decided it was time to leave. As I started the car, I noticed the headlights flickered for a moment, and then the engine died. I tried starting it again, but nothing happened. Panic started to set in. I was stuck alone in a dark, deserted parking lot. I pulled out my phone to call for help, but to my horror, I saw that I had no signal. My phone showed no service. It felt like a scene straight out of a horror movie. I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm, and decided to check under the hood. As I got out of the car, the cold air seemed to wrap around me like a blanket of unease. I popped the hood and fumbled around, hoping to find something obvious that I could fix. But everything seemed fine. My mind was racing, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. That's when I heard it, a soft, distant whisper carried by the wind. It sounded like someone was calling my name, but it was barely audible. I strained my ears, trying to make out the words, but the voice remained elusive. Fear gripped me, and I closed the hood, deciding to abandon my car and walk to the main road where I could hopefully find help. But as I turned around, I froze. A figure stood about 20 feet away from me, half hidden in the shadows. My heart pounded in my chest, and I tried to speak, but no words came out. It was as if I had lost my voice. The figure started to move closer, and I could see the outline of a person now. They were dressed in tattered clothes, and their face was obscured by darkness. Fear surged through me, and I turned and ran towards the main road, my heart pounding in my ears. As I reached the road, I saw the headlights of a car approaching. I waved frantically, and the car slowed down, and the driver rolled down the window. It was a kind older couple who had been out for a late-night drive. I explained my situation, and they offered to give me a ride home. I got into their car, feeling grateful and safe. As we drove away, I glanced back at the parking lot, but the figure was gone. When I got home, I couldn't sleep, replaying the night's events over and over in my mind. What had I seen in that parking lot? Was it just my imagination, or was there something truly eerie and inexplicable lurking in the shadows? To this day, I don't have a clear answer. All I know is that the experience changed me. I now avoid parking lots late at night, and I can't shake the feeling that there are things out there that we can't explain. So, if you ever find yourself alone in a dark parking lot, be cautious. There might be more than just shadows watching you. It was a Friday night, and my buddies and I decided to hang out in my car, parked at a secluded corner of the parking lot of an abandoned mall. We often gather there to catch up, listen to music, and share a few laughs away from prying eyes. As the clock struck midnight, a strange feeling settled over us. The wind howled through the empty mall, creating an eerie ambience. But we laughed it off, attributing the unease to the horror movies we had binged on earlier. The parking lot was dimly lit, with flickering street lamps casting long shadows that danced eerily around us. Suddenly, my friend Mike's eyes widened as he pointed towards the far end of the lot. "Holy crap, do you guys see that?" he whispered. We followed his gaze and saw a group of shady individuals huddled together, seemingly engaged in some kind of illicit activity. We squinted to get a better view, and it was evident they were involved in a drug deal. My heart skipped a beat as I realized we had to keep our distance. We didn't want to get tangled in anything dangerous. With a nervous glance at each other, we decided to act nonchalant and pretended like we were just chilling, minding our own business. The tension in the car was palpable, and I could hear my heartbeat echoing in my ears. We tried to carry on with our casual banter, but our eyes kept darting back to the shadowy figures in the distance. It felt like we were being watched, even though they were engrossed in their own dealings. Minutes turned into what felt like hours, and our nerves were fraying. We debated whether to leave or stay put, hoping they wouldn't notice us and that they'd finish their business soon. Just when we thought we were in the clear, a gust of wind rattled the car, and the faint sound of something metallic hitting the ground reached our ears. Our eyes met in silent terror, realizing that we might have accidentally attracted their attention. In an instant, the shady individuals stopped their dealings and glanced in our direction. Panic washed over us, and we ducked down, praying they hadn't seen us. "Do you think they saw us?" whispered Sarah, her voice trembling. I dared to peek through the window slightly, and my heart sank as I saw one of them walking towards our direction. I quickly signaled to my friends to stay low and not make a sound. The footsteps grew louder, and I could feel my breath hitching in my throat. As the figure approached the car, I held my breath, praying he wouldn't notice us. But then, he walked past our car and continued on his way without sparing us a second glance. It was as if we had become invisible to him, a silent spectator to their dark dealings. We waited until they were out of sight before daring to breathe again. The relief washed over us like a wave, but we knew we couldn't stay there any longer. We had to leave before anything else happened. I started the car, my hands trembling as I put it in gear. We drove away, the parking lot and its secrets fading into the distance behind us. As we left that eerie place, we promised ourselves never to return to such a dangerous situation. That night taught us a valuable lesson. Sometimes, even the most innocent hangout spots can be filled with shadows and secrets. The seemingly ordinary parking lot had turned into a haunting reminder that darkness could lurk in the most unexpected places. So, if you ever find yourself parked in a dimly lit lot late at night, be cautious and stay vigilant. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows, and it's better to be safe than sorry. Stay safe, Reddit, and never underestimate the power of a seemingly innocent night in a parking lot.